Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Phantom Perspectives, and today we're going to be discussing episode 14 of Danny Phantom, ironically titled 13. And if I don't bring this up, someone else will. Pretty much what's going production-wise, this episode is actually the 13th episode in the series. It's just that, like I said, I'm going by the premiere order / wiki order. So, as such, I'm going to be watching. As such, I watched Friday night before this one, even though. But anyway, back to the plot of the episode. In this case, the episode is called 13 because of the titular villain of the episode, called Johnny 13, a ghost biker who manages to escape the ghost zone because Jack Fenton has installed a new DNA lock on the Fenton portal. All he has to do is have his thumb, or the thumb of. Okay, hold on a sec. Sorry, I was getting a lot of alerts on my phone. I wanted to shut up. Anyway. As I was saying, Jack is now just testing it out, and several ghosts in the ghost zone are taking this opportunity to get out and cause mayhem. And one of those ghosts is Johnny 13 and his girlfriend, a ghost girl named Kitten, or at least that's what Johnny calls her. As he manages to hold the portal open with his shadow. He managed to keep the portal open with his shadow because his shadow is technically alive and is technically alive, and he manages to get through the portal, but unfortunately his girlfriend can't make it all the way through, as the portal closes on her just as she's passing through, causing her body to be stuck between the ghost zone and the human world, meaning that if she tries to leave, she'll essentially be destabilized. As such, in an attempt to try and get her over into the human world, she gives Johnny some of her clothes, a scarf, a jacket, and even their relationship, and even their ring, cementing their relationship, saying that if Johnny wants her to go to the real world, then he needs to find a girl, convince her to wear these clothes, and she can take over her body, or, as later in the episode says, apparently they switch places, which I don't get why I don't really understand it. But bottom line, Johnny says that he'll do that, and so he manages to escape the ghost zone. And upon escaping, he sees Jazz and has his eyes set on her, because later, as Danny, Sam, and Tucker and Jazz are at a carnival, though they're not together. Well, at least Sam, Tucker, and Danny are together. Jazz is doing something separate. Johnny decides to pretty much affect the situation to get Jazz to come to him, as something his shadow can do is that it can create bad luck wherever it goes. If it flies or something, it'll just make the circumstances surrounding it go nuts. And look, the first example we saw of that was when he first got out of the ghost zone. Danny wound up finding him, and thanks to his ghost sense, he knows Johnny's a ghost, so he went after him, but Johnny sicked the shadow on Danny, causing a light post to fall on Danny, missing him, but enough to just crush the Fenton thermos, releasing all the ghosts he'd been capturing, because, as I said, several ghosts took the chance to get out while Jack was messing with the portal controls. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. He uses his shadow to manipulate the events in the park so that an accident occurs. Causing it's pretty much just like a Final Destination type of circumstances building up, causing a roller coaster to derail. Danny manages to save everyone off of it, but the flying roller coaster flies towards Jazz, and Johnny goes in and saves her at the last minute, making him look like a hero to her. And as a token of appreciation, as a quote unquote token of appreciation, he gives her Kitten's scarf, which little by little, as he keeps giving her some of Kitten's clothing, she becomes more and more receptive to his charms, so to speak, becoming more willing to be around him and do what he likes, etc., etc. Like for example, he starts calling her Kitten. Originally, she says that that's not her name, but the instant she puts the scarf on, she's more than willing to call herself that. As such, Danny, knowing that Johnny is bad news, and again, I don't think Johnny even knows that it's the same kid, because again, I don't really understand it. Someone said that while Danny's in ghost form, maybe his form is maybe because of the ghostly aura he has, maybe his form is hard to make out, which I still say which I don't really think that makes sense. I don't think that makes a lot of sense, whatever, because they can still make him out clear enough to know that he's there, but still. Anyway, I'm getting really sidetracked, so Danny is trying to get Jazz to not see Johnny, but because she's being influenced by Kitten's clothes, she's just getting annoyed and starts getting annoyed with Danny. So Danny starts bringing his parents in because as parents of teenagers usually act, whenever one of their children starts dating, particularly if that child is a girl, the parents are immediately disapproving of the boyfriend, especially considering that Johnny is like that typical motorcycle riding hoodlum. He's got the jacket and the jacket attitude, everything. He's even calling Jack Pops. So as such, they managed to throw Johnny out. They managed to throw Johnny out of the place, but Johnny managed to find Jazz just as she's leaving school. And so they go to like I suppose you can call like this little peak outside Amity Park, and he tries to say, "I want to go steady with you," and pulls out the final piece of Kitten's clothing, the relationship ring or the commitment ring. However, and while Jazz does say yes, before Danny manages to catch them, and after battling Johnny's shadow, because Johnny's shadow has been going around causing various mayhem, particularly for Tucker, Danny transforms back into a human, makes it look like he's been spying on them the whole time, pretty much ruining the moment and stopping Johnny from getting the ring on Jazz. As such, they go back to Danny and Jazz. They go back to Fenton Works, and while Danny's parents are outwardly acting angry at him, when Jazz isn't listening, they whisper, "Good job, keep it up," to him. But Miss Johnny still manages to get through as he goes to see Jazz, and they go down to the basement where the lab is. So again, he tries to get the ring on her, but Danny once again intervenes, and of course Jazz is telling him don't do. It's like, why are you even doing this? Because again he says that if doing this is just a big mistake. He manages, as he grabs her shoulders, he manages to slip some of Kitten's clothes off her, and it causes Jazz to start to get back into the right mind, and at this point, which causes Johnny to lash out and throw Danny into a, I guess you could say, closet. I'm gonna say cupboard, a metal cupboard or shelves or. Dang it, I forgot the word. I know the word too. I don't like this. I really don't like this. This scares me. But at that point, Kitten's clothes fall off Jazz, and Jazz tells Johnny to leave her brother alone. And so, realizing that she's no longer attracted to him, he finally just says screw it and goes to the more direct approach, causing his shadows to possess the shelves and try to crush Danny as he forces all of Kitten's clothes on Jazz. This in turn he then uses Jazz's fingerprint to open the ghost portal, which almost allows Kitten to get out. But since Danny's half ghost, he manages to fly out of the cupboard, away from the cupboard, and grabs the ring off Jazz, stopping the process from occurring. He then flies off, causing the shadow to fly after Danny. And Danny realizes he needs to find a way to stop it. And earlier, he discovered that the shadow reacts badly to light, as he was battling it before, he tried using his ectoblast to get out, but the bright light from them actually disoriented the shadow. As such, he realizes he needs a new way to defeat the shadow. So what he does is that first, he calls Tucker and Sam, because Tucker had a B-plot in the story about him trying to change his image from the techno geek to something else. It's I really don't that's the thing awful. I'll talk about it later, but as such, Danny's able to call them, and he manages to get them into the baseball stadium as Danny leads the shadow all around Amity Park and manages to fly into, and they fly right into, excuse me, and as such, they manage to go. As such, he goes back to Fenton Works and closes the portal, cutting off Johnny from Kitten, which I admit is kind of a little cute, as Johnny and Kitten are both on two halves of the portal, and they both actually want to be, and they just want to be with each other. It's a little cute, but by closing the portal, just as Kitten sticks her hand out, it just pisses Johnny off something fierce, as he calls his shadow back, and they chase after Danny as he flies through Amity Park. He's supposedly cornered. He unleashes his shadow to take Danny out, but it turns out what they did was that they went to the ballpark. As they turn on all the stadium lights, and suddenly all the light just causes Johnny's shadow to pretty much disappear. Johnny, realizing that he's all kind of defenseless, tries to run away, but Danny punches him in the face and sucks him into the Fenton thermos, causing him to completely disappear. At that point, Danny's parents show up because they heard commotion and assumed it was Johnny. Johnny even pulling out a baseball bat with the word Fenton on it that they really wanted to use to beat Johnny. But they're still proud of Danny because, while they didn't know Johnny was a ghost and that Johnny was a ghost, Danny can still tell him that he fended Johnny off. And so Danny's parents are proud of him for getting rid of him, and Jazz is thankful for Danny for stopping her from making a very boneheaded mistake. However, the episode ends with Jack saying that because Danny's matured so much because he reminds him of him, he gives him his own jumpsuit, which I think he only wears for like that for this episode only, but it's kind of funny, so. On the whole, what did I think of 13? Well, for starters, I think it's fine. I think it's just like really fine. Like Johnny's, admittedly, is kind of a more down to earth villain, so to speak. Like he still has the supernatural stuff that's the ghosts, but out of all the ghosts so far, he's the one with the least amount of tricks, so to speak. Like he has his shadow. That is definitely something that's supernatural with him. How he has this shadow that can just this living shadow that does whatever he says and can create bad luck wherever it goes. But with that being said, though, his plan really is just—it's kind of like it's actually pretty nice. This is not, as again, it's like with Penelope Spectra. She's not like she doesn't go flashy till the end, but then this like who doesn't go flashy until the end, but works through subterfuge by preying on teenagers' own insecurities. But in the case of Johnny, instead of doing that, he just plays a bad boy, just a typical bad boy teenager, even reacting the same way to them. You react the same way that bad boy teenagers would do if their girlfriend's unhit parents got in the way, man. And that's how he is. Like out of all the ghosts though, he even looks the most normal. Like he's pale and sick. Like he looks pale and his hair is white, but he still looks like. But you can easily attribute that to. But you can easily fool anyone with that. Like you can just say he doesn't go out a lot or something, or he dyes his hair, whatever. I think his hair is white. That might be my memory playing tricks on me. But pretty much, but the thing with him is that his whole plan is just kind of to get his girlfriend back. He starts putting the moves on Jazz, trying to get her gradually more and more to move over to his side until she can be taken over or replaced or whatever by Kitten. And it's just kind of the thing. And he's patient. He's willing to play it. The only time he only freaks out at the end when because Danny's constantly getting in the way of everything. And you can easily, and actually, kind of the more I think about it, it's kind of like a romantic comedy or like an episode of a teenage drama where a family member of the main character starts dating a bad boy. The main character says, no, you can't do that. And just little by little, he tries exposing them until finally he manages to do so. Which is exactly what happens with Johnny. As Danny keeps trying to get in the way between him and Jazz, he starts getting more and more impatient with Danny. Until finally he just says, screw it, and then just tries to kill him. Which is ultimately when Jazz realizes that Johnny's bad news. Though again, that's also because Kitten's clothes fall off of her. So it's actually kind of like that. And again, it is like, and he's just kind of a smart aleck. Again, he's not. And again, I'm not gonna say he's the greatest villain, but I think he's pretty cool, down to earth. And admittedly, I kind of like that his. On top of that, I think most of his motivation in this episode is just to get his girlfriend back, because he was trying to escape the ghost zone when his girlfriend couldn't come through. He's just trying to bring her back. And again, they interact briefly, and there is some kind of venom between the two. But just like that one moment at the end showed that despite all that, they did care about each other. And if his backstory is anything to go by, I guess that kind of would make sense. But and it's also something I'm going to talk about. Despite the fact how I might change my. I'm going by my opinions, unless again it affects the episode. I'm just not going to talk about their backstories unless it's like directly referenced in the episode. I'm not going to talk about them at all. I don't really want to talk about them unless it's important. So as such, if you want to look up his backstory, if you want to know his backstory, you can look it up. Otherwise, I'm just not going to talk about it unless it really needs to be talked about. So anyway, okay, I'm getting sidetracked again. But otherwise, yeah, I like Johnny 13. Not the greatest villain, but pretty good, but pretty dang good. But where did the episode fail? I guess you wouldn't really call this a failure because it's not as intrusive as the subplot in Parental Bonding where Danny's trying to avoid getting detention and keep his dad and trying to put up an act around Lancer. But really, the stuff with Tucker and his B plot is I don't want to. It's just kind of It's not bad. It's just that in comparison with Danny and with Johnny Thunder and with Johnny 13 and and the stuff with Jazz, it's just passable. Just passable. Not awful, but passable. Just it doesn't it doesn't just majorly distract, but I just think that the stuff with Johnny 13 is more interesting though. Again, not bad. It is nice that I kind of I do kind of like how some of the progression goes. Like at first, when he wants to abandon the Techno Geek image, he gets the nickname of Bad Luck Tuck as Johnny's shadow actually starts messing with him. So like the truck he leans on goes off and causes the accidents that Johnny uses to get to Jazz and to try and pretend that Jazz is his girlfriend, try and get Jazz to put in with him. And then of course at lunch, the shadow comes in and knocks a spoon out of Tucker's hand that causes a beehive to go crazy and cause everyone to get stung. It's just kind of nice. And then eventually Sam says, well, if you're looking for a new image, why not Goth? And he says, yeah. But then when Sam goes overboard, Tucker says that he preferred to be himself, that he preferred to be a Nintendo guy. And then he learns that the reason that Sam was trying to get him to turn Goth was just to get him to realize that, which I think is nice. I like that. It shows that they are still friends. That it shows that they're still friends, and I think it's cute. Just nice little friendly banter. And again, I think I mentioned I like the plot with Danny trying to convince Jazz that Johnny's not a good guy. And again, I kind of like that too, and it helps show more of the familial bond. Like I mentioned, how Jazz doesn't confront Danny with the fact that she knows about his ghost powers because she knows he's doing good work and she wants him to feel ready to tell her. But the fact that Danny is going through all this trouble just to keep her safe, be away from this monster, because he still cares about her. And when Jazz is back to her right mind, she actually does thank Danny for doing his best, even though But I think it's just nice. Still shows that there's still still shows they're a family. I like that. Plus again, we still got to see that Fenton baseball bat, which I know it has another name, but I don't care. It's a baseball bat with the word Fenton on it. It's just funny. So, yeah, on the whole, 13 is a pretty good episode. It's not great, but it's got a nice story. I think the villain is pretty good. Not great, not the greatest, but still pretty dang good for what he had. Was still pretty dang good. I liked the storylines inside of it, and even the ones that weren't as good, and even the B plot with Tucker was still as somewhat entertaining. I liked seeing the familial bond between them all, and just on the whole, it's a good episode. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all. I think that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and tune in next week where Haley and maybe Tim will rejoin us for the next episode of Danny Phantom. So yeah. I'll see you then.